Well, hello there, and welcome to Lunch for the Soul, everyone. I'm Melissa Wilson with Fox 26 Houston. So happy to welcome you here today. This is always a time for us to learn about how to take better care of ourselves, perhaps, what to do if you have something scary happen. And I'm going to call this a medical miracle because our patient today was able to think straight enough to call and get help for himself when a lot of times people can't do that. But that comes naturally for him, and you're about to find out why. So please welcome to the program today, Sergeant Danny Beckworth, a sergeant with the Fort Bend County Sheriff's Office.
That's
Welcome.
right.
Thank you for being
having me.
here,
Thank
Sergeant.
you.
Good to see
Good to
you.
see you. Thank you.
I'm happy you're alive and well.
Well, I am too.
Well, you've come a long way, baby, haven't you?
I have came a long way.
Because of a stroke.
That's correct.
And we're here because you have been spending a decade raising awareness about this. I think that's so valiant that you just didn't sweep this under the rug, pretend like it didn't happen. Like, you're really here to make sure people know those warning signs.
There is definitely warning signs that you can do. Although with my situation, I really didn't have any. There's nothing that happened to me that I could say that I remember that something was about to happen. And there's always the stroke awareness, the slurred speech, the droopy face, which I did have the slurred speech, but I didn't hear that because I wasn't talking. I was talking to my then ex-wife.
Right.
So she recognized it right away.
Yeah, thank goodness for that. And when that happens with slurred speech, a lot of times people will say, well, you sound intoxicated. Something doesn't sound right. The words are almost coming in jumbled and backwards, aren't they?
And that's exactly what was told to me at the time. And what had really happened was my son had just had his wisdom teeth out that day. And I was living in a third-story apartment in New Territory at that time. And I was to get the medication my son needed and take it to him. So that's what I was in the process of doing. And in doing so, I was just getting out of the shower, and I was going to go ahead and take the medicine over there and then go to the gym to work out, which was a normal routine for me. When I made the phone call and said, look, I'm really not feeling good, when I came out of the shower, I really got extremely dizzy. And I called my kid's mother and said that I don't think I'm going to make it. I'm not feeling well. I'm really dizzy. And she asked me if I'd been drinking. And I said, no, I haven't drank, and haven't drank in several days. And she said that you sound very slurred. You need to call 911. So I then called the sheriff's office on the 7-digit line, and
because that's a number you knew
I knew
by
that.
heart,
I
right?
could find that number.
Well,
I did
thank
have to
goodness you
punch
were
the
able to-
code in my phone,
Oh,
so
you
I
did.
did do that. So I had the wherewithal to
But
get that
you
done.
wanted to talk to somebody who knew you, didn't you?
I did.
Do you remember making that phone call?
100%
Oh, you
remember
do?
it.
Okay. You didn't remember a lot after that for a while, right?
It took a little bit, but stuff started coming back to me.
Okay. So you make that phone call, and they immediately, the dispatcher recognized that
They
this was
recognized
probably a
my
stroke.
voice, and at first they didn't know what was happening. And I even asked the question, was I having a heart attack? Because I didn't know what was going on. She said it didn't sound like it, but she had help coming.
When you say heart attack, you would think that you were, was it just because you couldn't think straight?
I was dizzy. I had a king size bed, and I was actually falling out of the
Oh,
bed.
my goodness. How scary.
So
You were able to crawl. You were very weak, so you were able to crawl to the door to unlock it.
I got to the front door because I didn't want them. I knew they were closed, but because I was on the phone with the dispatcher, and I didn't want them kicking the door in.
So see, you had your wherewithal. You had this all figured out.
So,
But you couldn't walk.
I couldn't walk. In fact, the dispatcher told me just lie still because she didn't want me bumping or probably getting into an accident by walking. But I was able to crawl the door, and I unlocked it. As soon as I unlocked it, I could hear them coming pretty much to the door.
And these are people who knew you.
They knew
So
me.
they were there on a mission to save their friend. That had to be overwhelming, I would think, on their side of it, right? That's a lot of responsibility. Somebody you work with, but it sounds like they knew what they were coming into. That this was more than likely a stroke.
I don't know what dispatch had told them, but I know when they came in, the first officer that came in was pretty much on a mission, and she got me up and took me to the bathroom because then that's when I was becoming really violently ill, and she helped me, and then I was able to get dressed.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the EMS getting there, and they were getting ready to doing what they do. They call it packaging. I guess they were getting me ready to go to the hospital.
Packaging. That sounds grim, doesn't it?
That's what
I've actually, even as a medical reporter, I've never heard that term before.
Yeah, I've heard it several times.
And tell me again what it means.
They're getting you ready to transport.
Okay. So they're getting you all put up on that gurney and all
they're
packaged in to get you in the ambulance, I guess.
They were getting that ready, and then they had to put me on a different kind of lift because I was on the 3rd floor, and they had to wheel me down.
Oh my goodness!
3 flights of stairs.
That
I
had
just
to be
remember
a challenge.
I remember it cold. It was December the 14th in 2014, and it was cold that day.
Yeah.
And they brought me downstairs, put me in the ambulance, and they didn't know what was going on. They just said that my blood pressure was kind of all over the place. They got me to Memorial Hermann Sugar Land at that time, and then everybody from work started showing up, and I remember several people being there and still not knowing what was going on, and then things got a little foggy at that time because I thought I was only at the hospital for a couple of hours, but it turns out I was there for almost a day.
But doctors realized
the
there that this was too serious for them to handle. They needed to get you to the Texas Medical Center.
My understanding is what happened. I guess because of the Memorial Hermann, their doctors, and I was doing a lot of CAT scans done, and they were comparing the CAT scans from where I was at in Sugar Land to the doctors at the medical center, and it was determined that okay, he's having a stroke, and his brain is swelling, so he needs to get down here like now. And then because of the weather, they couldn't life flight. Life flight wasn't able to fly, so my lieutenant at that time organized a police escort from Houston Police Department at that time.
My goodness, all such dramatic moments. Do you remember any of that? Obviously, you said you felt like you were there for a few hours. It was a day, almost a day. Any thoughts of that, or feeling overwhelmed that you needed to get there and you couldn't? Did you know any of that was going down?
I didn't know exactly what was happening. Even when they told me that I was having a stroke and they were transporting me, I really didn't.
You were sick. It was hard to realize.
I really couldn't comprehend what was going on.
Yeah.
And because of my job, I'd been at the medical center several times. So in the way there, I remember them rolling me out of Sugar Land Hospital. And I remember the
Is it emotional to think back about it? Just how, because you think about it, your life was on the line at that time. I know it's hard to relive even after all this time. And your family loved you very much. I know they were all praying for you. So let's talk about what happened. So they were able to get you an escort, get you to the medical center in record time.
Yeah.
I got to meet up with your doctor at the University of Texas with UT Health Houston. What an amazing neurologist you have, Dr. Sharif's
Dr. Sharif's
incredible.
amazing.
And so it was really neat to talk to her. And so she was explaining to me that your stroke was in the cerebellum, so it was the back of your brain.
Correct.
When it happens there, they often have to do surgery. So you hear a lot of times, sometimes people, they will just have to get a medicine, and it takes care of it. You had to have surgery?
I had a craniotomy, which they had to remove probably about a quarter size portion of the back of my skull to allow it to expand.
Goodness.
And then they inserted because I had a brain bleed, they inserted a tube. I remember waking up from the surgery, and I just had a lot of pressure on the back. That's when I first met Dr. Sharif. She came in, and I think she took because I couldn't really, they didn't want me touching it, and she took a picture of the back of my head, and she said, this is what we did, and you had a stroke. And that's when she explained to me what was going on. So at that point, I was like, I didn't know what to think.
Yeah. You know what's scary about a stroke is, and you probably knew this already, is that it can sometimes cause lifelong deficits. It can make you suffer memory loss, never being able to walk again. It can cause so many problems. You did have those problems at first, but you
I
were
did.
able to overcome them. So let's talk about that timing. So you undergo the surgery. You're in ICU for several days recovering, right?
I did.
And then you realized that you were so weak you couldn't even get out of bed. When you shared the picture with me and the video of you first getting up, I mean, it's shocking how weak you were.
I remember when Dr. Sharif came in and she was explaining to me what happened after the stroke.
And we see you here, and you're just trying to get up.
I believe that's I remember that. That's the first time that I was able to get up.
So you do remember that day of trying to get up.
100%.
How surreal was that to feel so weak? So you went from working out all the time then to needing a walker. I mean, that just had to be so tough to work for the sheriff's department, to be taking care of everybody else, and now you have to have other people taking care of you.
Yes. And the background there, that was my partner that was there. But
you had a lot of support. Your team was there for you, weren't they?
well, at that time, the sheriff at the time was Troy Nels, and he had somebody in my room 24/7 as long as I was there.
That's incredible. What a blessing.
So
that makes a difference, doesn't it, to feel like you are not alone?
it was in the middle of the night because you can't sleep. In the middle of the night when I would wake up and I could see that uniform.
It was comforting. That's incredible to have that kind of support. That is so beautiful. Okay, so then what was that like to recover from it? Was it step by step? Was it frustrating? Was it
very frustrating and very emotional?
Yeah.
And I remember when after about the 7th day, and getting to know Dr. Sharif at this point, I asked her, when can I go home? And she goes, well, there's a process, and you have to do a series of. She said you got to be able to walk around the nurse's station twice, unassisted, with the walker, of course, but pretty much unassisted. And the only thing I could do is have somebody walk with because the drain tube was still inserted, and they had to walk with me with it. And she said, after you do that, you have to do so many air squats and walk a flight of stairs and be able to take a bath, brush your teeth.
That's a big list. That's a laundry list.
That's a lot. But I said, okay, if that's what I have to do, then as soon as the physical therapist came in there, I was always calling them, let's go.
You were pushing them to push you.
Let's go. And the physical therapist was great. He was awesome.
Yeah.
And we got up pretty much any spare time that he had. He came up there and we got up, and I was able to walk.
Wow, that's incredible. And they got you out of there. How long did it take you to get back to work?
Oh gosh, work was several months. Before I could even go back to light duty, it was probably in the neighborhood from 6 to 8 months.
So a long time
before I could get back.
When you have to, in a job like that's so demanding and is so important for you to make crucial decisions, I'm sure that you had to have clearance that your brain was completely healed and that you were literally in your right mind, right?
That's correct. And going back to light duty is I'm not in uniform. I'm just pretty much in the office doing paperwork and kind of overseeing other things. So
probably not your passion and not anything
not
anyone
not
wants
what I wanted
to do.
but it was a necessity. And it turns out, I mean, that's the best thing is you have to get up and you have to be active. If you just choose to sit on the couch and do nothing, you're not going to recover.
Yeah.
You have to get up and push yourself to do it.
How did you use your faith to get you through this? Because these were some tough times. It took you almost a year to get back on track.
It was tough. Had a lot of people that prayed for me, and
that made a difference? Could you feel those prayers? Did it give you
Absolutely.
comfort knowing people were praying for you and that they cared?
Absolutely.
There's just something about that, isn't
Yes.
it? That just covers you and almost like a safety blanket.
That's exactly right. It was knowing that I had these people that were doing this. In my drive, I was able to get up and really push the limits is what you have to do.
Well, there has been a lot of research that has come out about strokes through the years, and doctors have learned that unfortunately the risk is very high. If you've had a stroke, I believe it's like 44% chance that you'll have another. And you realize that, and Dr. Sharif says, and gave you the list, right, of what you need to do to prevent it again. Moving, exercise is one of the biggest ones.
That's right.
And so, well, you took that to the extreme. You just cycled, almost 150 miles? What did you do with that? Tell me about that.
I did. I had gotten a road bike at that time, and because I had previously had knee surgery, so I can still run and jog, but the biking is a little less impact on the knees. So I said, I'm going to do this. And somebody came up to me and said, let's do this bike around the bay. And I was like, okay, how far is it? And they said, well, total it's like 160 miles, but we'll just do the first day of it, which is like 120. So I said, okay. So I started training for it and did it and completed it. That was all that was on my mind, was just, I want to complete this, and I'm not gonna stop. So I did it and completed it, and then that wasn't enough, and then I wanted to start running again. So I started running again and building my endurance up, and I was able to do a half marathon.
That is incredible, after all that you'd been through, to do that. And then not only that, then you put a little martial arts in there. Tell me about that. Jiu-jitsu?
Well, because of the, with when the stroke happened, there were some things that had to get, I guess, I don't know, sold to help with the expenses. The bike was one of them. So I'd always wanted to learn jiu-jitsu, and I went to my wife and I said, I want to try this. She goes, and she was the typical wife. I don't think we need to do that. But ultimately I did. And that came with its set of prices too. And so I ended up, after getting a cracked rib, strained intercostal, which is common in jiu-jitsu, and ultimately I dislocated my shoulder.
Oh my goodness.
And I had to have, I tore 3 of the 4 rotator cuffs that we have, so surgery wasn't an option. So here I am down again, and
you were just trying to be healthy, and
I was
you got
just trying,
hurt.
and I got hurt. And then the frustration of my wife at that time, she was
Did she
frustrated.
say, "I told you so"?
Not in those words.
Oh, okay.
But she did tell me after the surgery that you need to quit.
Yeah.
And I knew
That might have been good advice.
I promised her that I'm not going to quit, but I will scale it back 100%. So that in itself, she still didn't like that, but she knew I wasn't going to quit. So I continued, but even now I can't go nowhere near as hard as it was.
But how amazing that you're moving. And I mean, I think the stats show that for somebody who sits for 11 hours or more a day, I mean, their risk of stroke are unbelievable, and you're just making sure that you're keeping that body going, right?
You got to keep moving.
Yeah.
And I tried, and even before that, after the stroke, before the shoulder surgery, I had the prostate cancer that I had to get that. And luckily, we caught that early, and I was able just to do radiation.
You just keep getting lucky over and over again. I feel like God's got you. He needs you to be here for some reason, Mister. You're taking care of Fort Bend County, aren't you?
My wife tells me that I've got 7 lives. So at this point, I've kind of used at least 3 at this point. So I'm getting back to. I am going to be training for the Bike Around the Bay again.
You
That's
are.
coming up, so I'm going to do that.
And where is that held?
It's you start in Winnie,
Uh-huh.
Texas, and you go down I-10 to the backside of Bolivar and come down through Galveston that way.
Nice.
It's a fun ride if you like endurance rides.
Sure, that's a long way. I don't know
So
about that.
it's a long way, but I've got some guys at work that want to do it too, so I won't be alone.
Well, we
doing
know that exercise is one of the healthiest ways to prevent health problems. So hopefully you're setting yourself up just for just a healthy future and no more drama. Anything else, lifestyle that you've done to change after your stroke?
I've really tried to watch my diet, which is up and down, of course, especially with being a police officer. You're not always able to eat as healthy as you would like.
Because you're busy and you're out there all the time, right? It's hard to take those important breaks.
But my wife, she does a lot of meal prepping, so I'm able
that
to
helps.
take some with me and
Yeah.
try to do it that way, or drop by the house and eat when I can.
Well, you have so much resilience. What is your best advice for anybody who's going through a medical crisis? Because you've been through a lot of them.
I would say stroke specifically, what was hard for me to deal with is the emotions. Emotions are very depression is a big concern with stroke afterwards.
It happens
so
a
you
lot.
have to. I remember afterwards I could sit on the couch and I could be watching cartoons and start crying just for no reason. And of course I had those times of why me? Why did this happen to me?
That's very natural.
And so that's when Dr. Sharif came in and she referred me to, and I did some couple meditation classes too, and just to kind of get your mind right, and with her help, and then knowing myself that I needed to get up and I needed to move, because I could fight this, or I could just lay on the couch and let it consume me. So you can't do that. You got to get up and you got to move.
And boy, did you ever move half marathons,
Do something.
150-mile bike rides. I mean, like I said, one extreme to the other. Good for you.
Again,
though.
those were not about really. I knew I wasn't going to be setting any land speed records, but it was just more of I can do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what it's all about, right? I mean,
Just
that's
completing
a
it.
good feeling of accomplishment. And I mean, I can't imagine doing those things. That's hard to pull off.
It was hard at the time. I look back on it now and I was like, okay, I could have done this better. I could have done that better.
So now here you go again.
And I'm going to try it again.
Yeah.
So,
Are you going to try to beat your time, or is it just about getting it done?
I want to get it done a little bit faster now.
How long has it been since you've done it? A couple years, or longer than that?
It's been several years. Probably the stroke was in 2014. The first ride, I want to say, was maybe in 2016, 2017. And then I've done a couple of the rodeo marathons, the 5Ks, 10Ks. And then it's kind of okay, I can complete that. Let me see what I can do now. Let me see what I can do next.
I love that. Well, and I know all your colleagues have to love seeing how active you are too. And that's important in your job as well, isn't it? To make sure you're as fit as you can be.
Absolutely. Starting all this I'll be 56 this year. So getting some of this done, there's no reason. I tell people at work, you're younger than me. You need to get up and stay active.
No excuses.
There's no excuses.
No excuses allowed.
And we have my wife's friend. We have a kind of a little banter. She shares our workout with me on Apple, so kind of hold each other accountable.
Smart.
So we'll dig at each other on that. So.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, Sergeant, it's such an honor to talk to you. Thanks for sharing your journey. I know it's a private one, but I feel like you can motivate so many people. And when people see all that you've been through over and over again, with multiple medical crises. And here you are, you're about to do that bike ride again. I mean, it really makes us realize we can all probably do a little more and make a difference, not only in our own lives, but everyone around us. So thanks for sharing that.
Thank you for having me. Thank you very
it's,
much.
It's remarkable. And I know your doctor's proud of you for speaking out too.
Yeah.
And
Dr. Shree's awesome.
Making a difference for sure.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing your journey with us.
Thank you.
And I want to thank you all for joining us here on Lunch for the Soul. It's easy to reach out to me if you have an idea. You can email me, probably the easiest way to do it, at melissa.wilson@fox.com. And you can always find us here Tuesdays at 10:30 and also on Saturday mornings. So I hope you'll join us every single week. Hopefully you have been inspired. I know I certainly have. And I hope to see you back here same time, same place next week. Have a beautiful day. Be blessed. And thanks for joining us on Lunch for the Soul.